Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFLW Fantasy Fanatics round review. We're not recording live. We're recording on Monday night, the 14th of October, post round 7, because it is the end of the double game weeks, which someone that was watching footy, that's probably the one negative about not being football every night. But the positive is don't have these double game weeks anymore. I don't think we'll have them again. I think that'll be it. Obviously we've seen Nathan Beck come out and say that, like, we've seen what happens, don't do it again. A lot of people said it. So I don't think we're going to see that again. So enjoy the 331 points times 2 that Marinoff scored, because I don't think we're going to be getting any of those scores again. But then again, Marinoff might have something to say about that because of how good she is. But I'm your host, Bails, and you can find me at BailsDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is my co-host and fellow AFLW Fantasy Fanatic, is Jaiden Poposky. Jade, mate, how are you? You glad to have the double game weeks behind you, or you missing the fact you might not have footy every night?
Yeah. Hey, Bails. And it is kind of interesting because I would say in terms of fantasy, it made things very easy. There's really only like 6 players you were maybe weighing up across the course of the week, and you didn't have long to do it. So you kind of didn't have to really overthink your trades, and you just kind of only had certain players you could get, which I kind of found nice. Because it felt like the strategy was pretty obvious. But now we have to go back to thinking and making actual decisions, and we've got 18 teams to pick from. So I guess the fantasy purists are kind of a bit more satisfied now.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's a bit more strategy going on, and I guess this is where in the men's fantasy around the bye weeks is that I think that this week particularly, and the next couple of weeks, the tide's gonna go back out. We're gonna see who's swimming naked, as the term that people like to use, is that we're gonna see who has got a completed team and who has sort of been able to attack the double game weeks and get the players in, but also continue upgrading their side. But obviously a few bullets along the way. A Bree Davey bullet, which hit a lot of us, and even a Bonnie Too Good in round 1, like that could come back to bite, particularly myself. And I think, Jane, obviously you as well, both of us had both Too Good and Bree Davey. So that's a good 600, 700, 800K, maybe even over $1 million when you sort of factor in who you brought in. They might have gone up a few $100K. A fair bit of cash lost, but hopefully it won't cost us too much. But we'll sort of recap how we went in round 7. So, Jada, mate, what was your score in round 7? And we can actually look at what was your round rank and what is your current overall rank as it stands post the buys? Well, double game week, sorry.
Lockouts lifted. Just to be clear, I didn't have Davey, and I actually kind of got through the double game weeks pretty unscathed overall. I think Hosking missing a second game was probably the only thing that actually happened to me. So, yeah, pretty happy. This week I scored 2-2-1-4, which I think is pretty on par, I would say. Weekly rank of 481, and it brings my overall rank into 244. I was before Sunday. I think I was like 90th. But yeah, no Riddell, no Garner. There's no way both of them would go under 100 again. So 244 I'm pretty happy with. That's 10 times better than where I was before the double game weeks. So pretty happy.
Yeah. Well, before I go into my week, where were you ranked before round? I don't know if you can on the app here. You can actually look at. If you just go like round 3, it'll show what your rank was. So what was your rank pre the double game weeks?
Yeah, so in week 2, I was doing okay. I was 657th, but week 3 was just a disaster, and I ended up 2,220th. So, yeah, into 200th now. It's just 10 times better. I just had a donut of Huntington, and rookie roulette didn't work. So that everything just didn't work out. I got Anderson and Benici in early, and they didn't really fire. And then Benici was injured. So, yeah, I'm overall pretty happy with how the double games went. It would have been a lot better if Marinoff didn't continue to just break every record. But, look, if I went up without her, then I'd still do it every single second of every day, I reckon.
Yeah, exactly right. So yeah, my week I scored the 22.69 with a round rank of 233 and into 213, which put me up 188 spots for the week, which is good. I'm pretty happy with that. Just outside top 200 there. Before round 4 started, I was ranked 409th. So the fact that I was able to halve my rank essentially during these double game weeks, I'm pretty happy with. That's considering that I copped a fair few bullets throughout these double game weeks. I had Jess Hosking obviously miss her second game after having a great game in the first game. For double game at round 4, I had Bree Davey, who was on for a big score, then got obviously her concussion. I had Ellie Blackburn going into round 4 that obviously had that injury against West Coast in round 3. That obviously was another double game week player I didn't have. Had Katie Brennan. She didn't play her second game in the double game week. And if you want to sort of be a little bit petty and think about, I had Ali Anderson and Jazz Garner in their double game weeks, which rested forward in last quarter. But then again, that is sort of what double game week. So I wasn't going to be shocked if I saw a bit of that there. So a few bullets there, but considering I'm still 213th overall, I'm pretty happy with where I'm currently sitting. So actually, we'll just because we're so close in the rankings, what's your total points in terms of how many you've scored for the season? It'd be interesting to see how far we are away.
I think it's 11,396 as of last week.
Yeah, so 24 points gap. So very close. Yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. Hopefully we can both get a hat. And yeah, hopefully maybe a Content Creators Cup win as well. So, but we will go quickly into plus and minus threes before we get into all the other stuff. So who was your plus and minus 3 for round 7, Jane?
I feel like there's a few different options here because, yeah, I think I had an all right week. Like, we're getting to a pretty premium setup. So I'll give the plus 3. It kind of was a bit of a surprise. And, well, yeah, there's a few. Okay, I'll give one to Darcy Guttridge, who I brought in for 300K. Scored 98 on the double, so I'll take that. That gave me 50 points over Friswell, so that's pretty nice.
I'm very surprised you didn't take the Liam approach with this and call her Darcy Goatridge. I was surprised you didn't go down that path. Because after that first game, I thought she was going to be scoring well over 120 for the week.
I was just sending through all the bowling animations.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah, that was quite funny.
Yeah, I was stoked with that. Yeah, and then made the right decision, bench Friswell against the hard matchup, and she might end up getting traded this week. But I suppose the -3. It's tough. There's not a heap of options. Maybe I don't know.
It's actually hard.
Everyone went pretty well. I think probably it was a little bit disappointing that Sheeran lost 10 points after the game ended. Yeah. That's being very nitpicky, but I don't really have anything else to go off there. So that's unfortunate because the defense went amazingly well this week, and I didn't even have Heads or Daisy Darcy. So there was great scores by defenders all week.
What was your last score in defense this week?
I had Slasher 67.
Yeah, that was the same for me. Yeah, 67 from Slasher was my lowest as well. So yeah, very good week for those defenders there. My plus 3, we go to Jazz Garner. Jazz Garner 131. Very, very happy with that. She was going for me. Obviously, as people probably, if they listened to last Tuesday, she was gone for me. But I was at work Wednesday during the day, and I sort of just took a couple-minute break and saw on the Discord that people, Laura Gardner's out for a month, and I thought, you're kidding me! I'm gonna have a donut. Like, my trades are done. Like, I can't do anything. But thankfully, because I was getting Gould and Hatchard, I was able to reverse trades and bring in a cheap forward, and then that gave me the money to flip Gardner instead of Garner. So that was really good. So I was able to do that. But still, fantasy, please put edit trade feature in. I know a lot of people got done with donuts and stuff throughout double games, particularly this week as well. So let's fix that next year, please. But yeah, Garner 131, kicked 3 goals in that as well. Her equal high score of the season, 24 touches, 9 tackles. She's getting tagged by Tanya Kennedy as well, but still put up that score. Jane, I know for you weren't too happy with the fact that she got kissed at the end of the third quarter. when she took a mark right before the siren went, and then it was a 50-minute penalty. And you were thinking, oh, I don't think I've ever seen anything more kissed. And I was just like, I don't think I've ever seen anything more beautiful in my life than seeing that. So that was fantastic. So, and then my -3, really the only poor score from my team this week was from Gemma Houghton with a 44. I'm not going to be too negative, though, on her because I bought her for like 470-odd K, and she's scored she's went 55, 73, and 68, and then 44 in her worst score of the season. Bit of an unlucky game, had a couple of drop marks and could have kicked up a couple extra goals. She's got a good run for us here as well, so I'm still pretty happy sitting her down the forward line. So I'm very happy that I picked her up, but yeah, -3 just because of the lower score. But we're not going to finish this segment, though, without talking about who everyone's +3. The MVP vote's only got a few hours left at time of recording, but every single person that's voted on it has voted for the same player. Ebony Marinoff gets all of our +3s. She gets +6, +12 if you want to do it, +3 for each game, and then ×2. She was fantastic this week. So no player in the double game weeks this year scored over 250 points combined, so obviously 125, except for Ebony Marinoff. And not only did Ebony Marinoff score over that, she scored 331 points, which cleared this week's second top scorer by about 140 points. I think Beck Beeson was the second highest scorer of the week. I think she had 192 points, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just getting it up on my phone there. Yeah, 192. So that's just unreal that she outscored by that much. And that 177 came from a season low 78% time on ground. So it was about 10, 15% less than what she normally plays. So it's crazy to think what she would have done if she played a full game. But anytime she plays the Giants, she loves playing the Giants. I think 36, 40, and 41 touch in her last 3 games against them. And I think both have been over 170 points in the last 2 games. So just absolutely incredible, averaging 152.4 from her 8 games so far this year. It's on track to be quite clearly the highest ever average in any men's or women's fantasy football. And it probably won't be beaten the way it's going because it's just incredible. So, yeah, she is on an absolute tear. And we can say Mitch is also happy because Mitch brought her in this week. So he is also was able to enjoy the Marinoff show for the first time this season. But yeah, heading over to the ranks because we can check this now. So the top 100, the 100th coach would have had to have total points is I don't know why the ranking's a bit weird. Is 11,550. So I'm currently what's that? 11,500. I'm 130 points behind. So not too bad. So you're 154 points behind, Jane, as well. So I'm still quite hopeful that's still doable. Especially if hopefully a few coaches above us haven't got a full upgraded team. And we can capitalize on that. So do you think you can chase that down in 3 weeks, 150 points?
I don't think I can, to be honest. Compared to where I was last year, I was probably like 40th or so at this point, and I didn't really move. So I don't think there's going to be a heap of movement, and especially now this year where the total points are so much more exaggerated by the double weeks. So they've made up a greater proportion of our season total this year, where every round isn't really the same anymore. So we're looking at if you had, let's say, 24 players on the double over the last 4 weeks, then you've got an extra 1.5 rounds worth of scores right there. So I think I'm probably a bit far away, but I don't think I don't know if I'll be taking a lot of risks to try and get there. I think I'll just keep playing how I want to.
Yeah. I'll probably still keep playing as well. I still think there's a chance I can catch 130 points in 3 weeks. I'm hopeful that a few of the players I've brought in, I've still got a few pods in my team. Obviously, need them to fire and keep firing for me to get there. But I guess we'll see. It would sort of be typical of the Bails experience to be right up among the cusp of a hat and then fall away with the last couple of rounds. But hopefully the fortune turns around. But in terms of the AFLW Fantasy Fanatics Open League, we have 21 coaches in the top 100, which is fantastic. I can also see DC there as well. I think he's about 70th overall, and I think Matt Mottram's there as well at 38th overall. But Lachlan there with, I can't see his full team name, but Starcevic something, because on my phone, he's top ranked coach in our Open League. So congrats to you, mate. And then, yeah, obviously the ranks are going to be interesting to see who gets that top 100, because I think Kiwi 5, Brett's team is he's still a fair bit in front of Supreme, Carl's team, Supreme, and something. I don't know why it doesn't show the whole team name on my phone, but he's, what's that, 66-point lead. So, and then it's like 200 points to a third. So fair margin between those top two coaches there. So let's get stuck into the games and go through. I was chatting with Jaiden what we should name this instead of just saying who we impressed with, who we disappointed with. So for now, we're just going to call it our MVPs and our MDPs. So most valuable player and most disappointing player. And we'll see if people like the name, if it sticks. If it doesn't, we might get another one for next season. But we will start for the final time, all the way back on a Tuesday. So that is St Kilda and GWS, with St Kilda getting the job done by 34 points. Jane, we'll start with you. Who is your MVP and MDP for this game?
The MVP is clearly, not clearly, but she finished the top. Jamie Lambert, 118, and she didn't end up getting suspended, despite getting cited originally. And yeah, kind of started off the week really well. Only 66 in her second game, but yeah, it was a great score by her, and it was weird because I was watching and her score go up, and I was thinking, why did we? I know there's a question on our live stream. It was like Lambert versus Ty Smith versus Goldsworthy, and I think I don't think I even said anything about Lambert, so I was kind of sitting there a little bit disappointed and apologetic to anyone who probably didn't consider her.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they would have been happy after the Tuesday game when they heard out that she was suspended, but then obviously when she was she escaped suspension from that, then obviously, but 66 in the second game was a bit disappointing, but 118 was very good, and Elise Parker was also very, very good there to my disappointment. As people know on my Discord, who the most disappointing player from this game, I'll be going Zadie Goldsworthy from here, 58. Normally I'd say Jane can take both in the game, but I thought I have to step in and give the MDP here to Zadie Goldsworthy, 58. When 50-50 calls are my burden in the men's and the women's fantasy. Always go the wrong combo. And this week it was Goldsworthy and Gould, and I could have gone Parker and Ponta, would have gained about 44 points, something, which, again, if you put that to less than 100 points for 3 weeks to go, I would have been a lot more confident about top 100, but that is fine. Just disappointed there at the end of the day. But we'll move over to the Adelaide and Melbourne game with Melbourne getting a job done by 2 points in a scrappy game. Very scrappy game, and a lot of bugs everywhere. So I went to this game. There were bugs everywhere when I got there. It was really, really annoying, but they slowly went away. But yeah, I think MVP, it's a bit hard to go past Marinoff, but because she probably will get in the next game, I'll give it to Chelsea Randall in this game. 105 as a forward. Fantastic. That got you Randolph to a great start. If you had her in your forward line, she was expensive. If you brought her in this week, then you'd be very, very happy with that score first up as well, because 105 from a forward is very, very nice. So you'd be very happy with that. And then MDP from this game, I don't think there were too many disappointments. The only real disappointments here were probably from Caitlin Gould and Danielle Ponta, 48 and 39. You're probably going for a little bit more against Melbourne. 1 goal, 8 for the Crows in total. Obviously wasn't great. Ponta kicked 1 behind, Gould kicked 2 behinds. Again, if they're goals, it changes and would have been nice, but at the end of the day, that's not what you can do. You can't just change your stats. So, but yeah, they're probably the two MDPs from that game. Moving over to the Thursday game, Port Adelaide and Collingwood. Port getting the job done by 8 points. And Jane, who are you giving your MVP and MDP
to? The Rising Star nominee, Schultz, with a massive mark.
Oh,
it's crazy, and it should be mark of the year, you'd think. Yeah. And 89 points to go with it. So, great performance there. And it kind of just is filling out that trend that, Collingwood haven't been kind of as hard as what people initially thought for rucks to score against.
Frederick's been demoted essentially to second ruck. It's like Barnett taking most of the ruck and Frederick's the chop out ruck, which is very interesting of how well Frederick was playing. I'd imagine she's probably carrying something. She's copped a few heavy hits throughout this season. I think Sydney round 1, or was it round 2? No, round 1 because Moy was still playing before she did her knee. That game she copped a couple of heavy hits. She copped another heavy hit. I think it was last week. So she's probably a bit bad and bruised. That's probably why. But yeah, just a bit surprising.
Yeah, and I suppose the disappointing one would be, you mentioned Gemma Houghton. There's not a heap from this game that was super relevant, but yeah, I feel like if you still had Ramos running around, you'd probably want a bit more cash out of that, and only 39% time on ground. So yeah, that's not the best. Fortunately, over in Bolter, I benched her, so got that one right.
If you played on field and you got a better score on your bench, you would have got that score because she played under 40%, which is
true, actually,
which is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Also see Wenland down there at 32. She's made a heap of cash, but maybe you probably want one more good score before cashing her out this week. So I imagine that's what a lot of people are going to do with their bench this week. Cash out a couple of rookies and upgrade potentially their final rookie or one of their last couple of rookies on field. We'll move over to the Friday game with Essendon getting the job done by 23 points. And as Nathan Burt was saying about the Dogs going goalless again, I think, with the double game week, so with the crunch fixture, I think that did have a little bit of a part to play with it. But yeah, Dogs are unfortunately struggling with a fair few injuries to some key players. MVP in this game, probably got, actually, and I noticed this as well, that Elizabeth Georgia-Stathis was on 102 after the game, and she got a -8. So we're talking about Sheeran for minus points. But I'll give the MVP to her. She was very good with Fitzgerald playing a little bit more in the midfield. She's getting a lot more of that ball back there. Lauren Arends as well is out for the season, so a bit more ball available for her. So she could potentially be a trade target after a couple of decent enough scores of late. But also, it would be remiss if I didn't mention Amelia Radford as well with the 106 top scoring for the game. I just thought I went Georgia-Stathis because she's more highly owned in fantasy. The MDP from this game, I'm probably going to give it to, it wasn't, again, not a huge amount of bad scores. The only probably one that's fantasy relevant, probably Chloe Adams with a 40. It's not anything bad, but you probably, if you might against the Dogs, you maybe fingers crossed for 60, 50, 55 maybe, and make a little bit more cash. But because there wasn't a huge amount of, I guess, fantasy relevance from the game, that's probably where I went with that. But also Rolly Wilcox only scored 12. She was a popular rookie a couple of years ago, but not getting too much of it this season. Moving to Hawthorn and West Coast, with Hawthorn winning by 66 points. And who gets your MVP and MDP, Jaiden?
I know a few people brought her in last week looking for that double game hit. So McDonough with 100, top scorer. Yeah, massive score for a kind of key forward. And yeah, the coaches who brought her in kind of last week for that double game probably get the reward now, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like if you had Randall as well at this point, you'd have 200s in your forward line already. So you've really set up your weekend well. And the Hawks had a great fixture, so that's well identified there. And it kind of continues as well with AWST this week. So yeah, hopefully she plays. She went off late, injured, but yeah, great score.
Sounds like I think I had some post game that she was in the rooms and walking around, so it didn't sound too serious. So
yeah,
keep it on the injury report coming out probably tomorrow or today when the podcast released in the next couple of days.
Yeah, a disappointing one. I don't think anyone still owns, but Jess Hosking, first game back, and only a 24. So we're kind of lucky that wasn't the second game in the double Bails.
Yeah, I almost would have taken it still. Bonus 24 points. Just as I said, I had a fair few players that only played one of their two games in the double, and that probably cost me a good 100 points, 150 points. And again, people above me probably had a few of these players as well, but definitely could have been something interesting in terms of what the rankings were. But yeah, not too great. Only played the 66% time on ground as well, which isn't a surprise in her first game back as well. Moving to the next game on the Saturday with Richmond get the job done over Geelong by 7 points. And the MVP in this game, I'm going to give it to Ash Maloney. She's had a fantastic season this year, just in fantasy and real life. I think she's a lock for the All Australian side. And yes, she just, like, in a pretty inconsistent Geelong team as well. She just keeps getting it done. 91 points, 22 touches, 1 goal, 1 from a key forward. It's pretty damn good. 6 marks, 4 tackles as well. So yeah, she gets the MVP for the game. And the MDP from the game, I'm looking here. Tamara Luke only had 3 points. She had 1 kick, 9 hit-outs, and a couple of frees against, so not too great there. There's actually a fair few low scores. I'll probably go. I'll actually go something that you own that you bench this week. Zali Friswell, 43. She was a couple of weeks ago. She's looking like one of the forwards that you needed to have. Wing roll looked really good. Was heavily involved. Last couple of weeks, she's just fallen off. It's just the scores are not great. She's 600K now. She's potentially someone I might actually look at bringing in maybe next week when we talk about trade targets and stuff like that, that maybe I might need to cash out a forward because I got no cash on my bench, which a few people probably in that boat as well. So I might be looking at a Friswell next week. But yeah, not a great score and been a little bit up and down. So she gets the MDP from the game. Moving over to Gold Coast Brisbane and Gold Coast with Brisbane get the job done by 16 points. Who are getting your awards from this game, Jade?
Yeah, it was a pretty good game overall, and the Suns kind of took it up. Ali Anderson, I'm a very privileged owner here, 115, just amazing. And yeah, ever since that kind of, you mentioned resting forward, she's played 100% centre bounces ever since, so hasn't missed one, which is kind of rare, I would say. I'm
shocked that she didn't get more heavily tagged, particularly early when she was on fire. Like, I saw Single went to a couple of contests, but there was no tag. Like, she just was able to run free, and I was like, well, they've used Elise Barwick. I don't think she actually did. No, she played in this game. She'd been tagged in the last couple of weeks, and I thought, well, okay, her, Single, someone just stand next to her. Obviously for you were glad that she was running free, but for non-owner that traded her out, I was like, someone just tag her. But anyway, good score from her.
Yeah, and also a shout out to Daisy Darcy, because every time she gets the ball, my ranking just goes down by about 20 spots. So, she's been going amazing. I wish I went for her instead of O'Driscoll. I could have done it if I didn't get Fiddler on the bench and just went right down. But, owners very highly owned in the top rank. So, yeah, I can understand why she's going well and why she's heavily owned. And, like, the eye test, just incredible, like around the ball, distributing, things like that everywhere. A disappointing one from this game. Yeah, not a heap here. I don't think
probably
there's really anyone.
Probably Robot.
Oh, yeah, true. I've scrolled too far down. I traded her out, so that was a good result. It is still the difficultest matchup in the comp, the Brisbane midfield one.
Which is very interesting, because when we look at when me and Tom do our shows, the matchup matrix, Brisbane have given up the most points for midfielders on the Game Day Squad platform, which is very interesting because I've always associated the Brisbane matchup with a hard game. So I don't know if they've given up a lot of points to wingers or something, but very, very interesting, the discrepancy there, because I've always thought Brisbane was a tough matchup. But yeah, Charlie Rowbottom does look tired. I'm hoping that with the extra few days rest here after a double game week around 6, had the game there, hopefully a 4 weeks rest, she'll be back next week to her high scoring ways. She does have some good matchups to come. So she's got Sydney, Port Adelaide, and then finished off with North, which North, do you think, are a bit more tricky, but we've seen the best midfielder from the last few sides that have played against have gone big. Like we see, like Conti and stuff have gone big. So I think Laura Gardner would have gone big as well if she played last week. So it'll be interesting to see how she goes then. But I think Rowbottom could still be trade target, even though she had a couple of lower scores of late. Moving over to Freo and Carlton, with Carlton get the job done by 4 points. Bit of an upset here. A good game of footy, actually, particularly late. Low scoring in terms of goals and stuff early, but then late it's sort of, or am I getting it the other way around? It was one of the two. Either started really, first quarter there was 5 goals, then it dried up after that, but it's still a pretty good game, I thought. The MVP, I'm going to give a joint MVP here, and I'm going to give it to Mimstrom and Keely Shearer. They just keep getting it done. Mimstrom has been number 1 ruck for the year, quite clearly. Another 47 hit-outs again, near the record once again, which she keeps doing. And this is in a very tough matchup against Jess Good and Bree Moody, so even better that she went that. And Keely Shearer has been really good as well with 100, and she potentially could be a bit of a smoky trade target we might chat about as well. But the one player I did want to shout as well, I did actually mention her in our Discord chat, but Gabby Newton, 88 points again, just been really, really good. I think she's probably been, she's not got probably enough discussion in the fantasy community this year, just because I think we've had we haven't really looked at too many trades in defence. We started with a few of the cheap players like Serene Watson, Sinead Goldrick that have ended up being pretty good primos for us. We haven't had many trades, but Gabby Newton has been quietly going about it and doing quite well. So she's also a special mention there. In terms of the MDP, I think it's got to go to Gabby O'Sullivan. Like one of the easiest matchups, if not the easiest matchup going around for midfielders against Carlton. Hayley Miller was out. We thought, brilliant. This would be great. Hayley Miller's out, even more footy for Gabby O'Sullivan, and just didn't get near it. Like there were a few clearances where they got the ball and kicked along, and I thought Gabby O'Sullivan was getting busy. No, it still wasn't. Only 39 points from the game. Disappointing, as I had her in Bolter, and if a lot of people had her in the official platform as well. So not too great from her, unfortunately. But also, Meg Robertson was a bit quiet as well there with a low score. Moving over to the Sunday games and North Melbourne and Sydney. And who gets your awards from this game, Jane? With Kangaroos getting it done by 60 points.
The Kangaroos won, which no surprise. They're just dominating, and Garner's the main reason for it. 3 goals, easily best on ground. But, I think only 9 coaches' votes. So split with Riddell again. Unfortunately.
That's quite surprising. I thought Garner was quite clearly best on ground. Like Riddell was good. But I thought Garner was clearly best on ground. But one of the coaches thought she was second best on ground.
Yeah. So. And also another great game by Hurley. Doing it well. I should have traded her in, but
She was a pick last week. Yeah. I went bloody Ty Smith over Hurley and Bolter, which cost me, what was that? 40, nearly 50 points, which was a shame. But Hurley, great pick for those that went there. She's been very good.
Yeah, and this game was very difficult to watch because I pretty much just fell completely out of my ranking. But it was funny because everyone that Mitch owned in our content creators matchup literally went amazing. So he had Head 76, he had Lachlan 83, he had Garner 131, Riddell 97. So they just all went above what I was hoping, but it didn't matter in the end. The disappointing one would be Bresnahan, only 18 points. No Kearney in the team. It's just a weird score. I don't really know how to explain it.
I don't either. No.
But she's definitely in people's teams based on the fact that Kearney isn't there. Very odd one there.
Yeah, I didn't really get that. That's very interesting. But she got tagged a couple of times and the ball fumbled out so nothing happened. But it wasn't like that was that many points missed, which is very, very interesting. It seems like North have just shared the ball amongst a lot of those defenders there. But how about this though, Ella Head? You mentioned Ella Heads though. 0 touches in the second half. But she had 9 tackles, which got her to a good score of 76, which I was worried about this matchup and the fact she's playing on a wing, which I still don't agree with. But she's pretty good. I'll definitely take the 76ers defender when they have 10 tackles and 0 touches in the second half there as well. So very, very happy with that. Moving to the final 2 games with St Kilda and Melbourne. And the MVP again, I'll give it a joint one here because it's hard to split. But Kate Hoare and Eliza McNamara. Kate Hoare, everyone's got her pretty much in the forward line. That's her first ton since round 1 actually as well, which she's got close a couple of times, couple of 90s, couple of high 80s, but hadn't hit that ton since round 1, but was able to get it done. 11 tackles in this game with 21 touches. She did get really stiff with a bloody free kick that she tackled someone, they dropped the ball, and they gave it against her, which I still can't figure out what they gave it for against. That's what is it, 11-point swing or whatever it is, obviously with the tackle, free kick and kick, and then a free kick again. So could have been a 116, but at the end of the day, 105 was still taken. Liza McNamara has just, again, gone about her business this year and been really, really good. Obviously missed, I think, 1 or 2 games just for the double, but came back in this week. And if you picked her, I think she was a pretty good pick over 2 games. Well, I can't actually remember what she scored in the first game, but 103 in this game was very, very good. The MDP from this game, yeah, I'll probably give it to Sinead Goldrick. Probably a bit harsh because she's been so good. This is her first score below 50 this year. So 49, still not too bad. But again, you probably want a little bit more from your defender Primo. So 49, she gets a disappointing one from this game. But at the end of the day, we're still keeping her and she's still been a very good pick. Moving over to the final game with the Crows getting the job done by 64 points over GWS. And yeah, it's a bit hard to I think we know who the MVP is for this game, but who are you giving the awards to here, Jaiden?
Yeah, Marinoff 177. Probably one of the best games you could ever witness from in an AFLW game. Like 3 goal assists along with 25 contested, 12 clearances. Like
first ever to do it.
I'm pretty sure the Supercoach score was close to 300 if you dabble in that as well. Yeah. So a crazy score, and yeah, I'm very glad that everyone owns her and is able to witness why she's so good because she's really showing it, and it's really good for the AFLW as a whole for people to be able to see the best players and how they go about it.
Yeah, just before you move on to the MDP, the one thing I want to mention with Marinoff as well is the thing that's impressed me the most, and particularly as a Crows fan that's obviously watches the Crows team obviously a lot closer than probably a lot of others, is that her work rate has taken a considerable increase and has rapidly increased this year compared to even what it was last year. Like, last year was still good. Like, to still be able to get consistently 25 C touches and still lay as many tackles, but to play 2 games in the 1 week and go this well in both games and lay, I think she laid, if I'm not mistaken, I think it would have been 34 tackles across her 2 games in the double game week. I'm just getting up here. So in the first
51 game, in the last 3.
Yeah, 17 and 17. Like, the way that she did that, she played 97% time on ground on the Wednesday and then played, obviously, a little bit lower on the weekend, but still put up a higher score. Her work rate, like we always talk about, Hatchard is probably one of the best tanks in the AFLW, being able to sort of run up and down and get into space. But Marinoff has closed that gap and is probably almost neck and neck. If not, you could almost say Marinoff might have edged it just because of her work rate. So just want to shout that out because we probably do get stuck into obviously how good she's a fantasy player, but as an actual AFLW player as well, I think she's taken the game to a completely different level. And as a Crows fan, I hope she gets recognised potentially with the best and fairest award at the end of the year. But that'll be interesting to see when that comes up. But anyway, on to the MDP from this game.
I managed to trade her out, luckily, but Isabel Huntington, only 31 points across the whole
roller coaster.
Well. So, yeah, just that was Gabby O'Sullivan for me. And I ended up with Huntington for the last 5 or so weeks. Managed to get rid of her, luckily, but I know there were coaches who were stuck with Huntington there and had to do other trades, whether it was to get Marinoff back, which is clearly worth it, but it's just a very odd one. Obviously, already missed 2 games this year, kind of. So
what, the 1 week that you haven't owned her was when she got the 90? Is that, or do you have her for the 90?
No, I had that. So in terms of my team, I had her for about 4 weeks, or 4 scores, and she averaged like 35-ish, and that included a 90
with that donut.
So
yeah.
So it was a real roller coaster. It did suck because that was Gabby O'Sullivan. So I started the right pick, and then I got rid of her.
Yeah, they did. And funny enough, this game here, obviously you have the MDP to Huntington, but there was a few players that probably didn't quite go well enough in the second game, which we saw across all double game weeks that players struggled a little bit more in the second game, whether that be from resting a bit more on the bench or resting in a different position or just looked a bit more tired. But like you see, like a Garnett scored a 47. Again, obviously Giants struggled a bit as a team, but still 47. Probably won a tiny bit more. But then obviously Sirhoy got injured, which that didn't look too great, but apparently it's not an ACL from what they were saying on the bench, which is good news there. And even like a Tani Evans only scored like a 19, which again, Giants and playing these players out of position. I don't get why Tani Evans is still playing in the forward line, and Goldsworthy plays CBAs, but then goes deep forward for the whole quarter. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But it was good to see Goldsworthy still kick that goal with like 10 seconds left. So very, very happy to get that bonus 12 there. Cool. Well, I did forget to do this when we were talking about the leagues, but I didn't quite go through the Content Creators Cup matchup. So I'll quickly do that before we get into the trade targets for the week. So in terms of Content Creators Cup from round 7, the results, I was up against Mel and I was able to get the job done 22.69 to 19.04. JS had a good week. He got the job done over Will 22.36 to 20.38. Jono went down to his fellow co-host Liam 22.28 to 20.61. Mitch went down to you, Jaiden, 22.14 for Jaiden and 2021 for Mitch. But I think at the end of the day, he's still pretty happy he had Marinoff in his team. And then the close game of the week, Eloise defeating Jackson from Sliding Doors 22.70 to 22.51. So close matchup there. And congrats to Eloise for the top scoring coach in the Content Creators Cup this week. Picked me by one singular point. Unbelievable. But no, congrats to Eloise there as well. So the ladder post round 7 is Jaiden is sitting on top there. A record of 6-1. I'm second, 5-2. And then we've got a few coaches at 4-3. So we've got Eloise, Liam, and Mel are 4-3. Then you've got JS's 3 wins, a draw, and 3 losses. Then you've got Mitch, Jono are 3 wins, 4 losses. Jackson is 2-1-4, and then Will hasn't won a game. But he's had a lot more important things in his life going on than fantasy. So that probably would say a little bit there as well. So cool. That is how we're looking there. And it'll be interesting to see because I'm up against Eloise this week, who's 3rd. And obviously in our league, everyone plays each other once. The top 2 make the grand final. Jane, I think you have, locked your place in. I think as long as you win this week, I think you've locked it in. If you lost both games, then maybe, but I think you're pretty much there. And if I can hopefully get the job done out of Eloise this week, I think the winner of me and her will probably make the grand final. To be honest, that's how it'll probably work out. So, be interesting to see how it all goes. So there you go. Cool. Alrighty. Well, we'll go through the highest and lowest break evens from the weekend and what we're looking at going into round 8. They're the highest break evens, as you can see on the screen. So obviously. A few low ones there. Obviously, Butterfint's got a break even 10. Could be a decent downgrade target there. Rochelle Martin 12, and then you guys can see the rest on the screen there. But the one that's really really happy that we own her, Michaela Pounga, 14 break even, and lo and behold, she plays midfield. She looks good. So 57% time ground wasn't great, but it was good to see her actually play midfield and go well. But highest break evens, Marinoff is the only break even over 120, 134. That doesn't really mean anything when it comes to Marinoff. She's 1.9 something million. She goes 150, 160 again. She could be 2 million, which would be absolutely nuts. What's she priced at, Jaiden? What's her priced at figure in terms of what she's priced at? Because
I think it's 155.
That's unreal. And a lot of obviously high break evens there as well. So you got Rowbottom, Roberts, Gardner. Obviously Gardner's out for I think the rest of the season unless Sydney might make finals, which I don't think they will. Then obviously Conti, Riddell there, Garner, Strom, and then Whitford and Eliza West there. So anything from those break evens, Jaiden, I guess that probably takes your eye in terms of the most the lowest or the highest break evens.
Yeah, I forgot to take Gardner out because there's a bunch of others that are injured there that would be there, but they're injured, so I excluded them. So, yeah, it's good for Pounga. It is an interesting discussion about what to do kind of F5 because I played her there this week. Do I spend money upgrading her or do I I don't know, hope that she scores okay and hope for the cash rise.
Yes. So we'll quickly chat about that now, actually, because obviously I'm in a situation. I think JS is also in a bit of a similar boat. And I think a lot of people are as well, that they had Panga on the bench, had a rookie playing there, and now she's probably sitting at people's F5s realistically. Then people have probably got a midfielder, maybe a defender potentially that they want to upgrade to a premium. So Jaiden, probably the question here is, what's more of the priority? Is it? I think people are going to target Bonnie Toogood, which she's not on this list, but she's probably going to be one of the most traded in out, which we'll probably discuss in a second. But with Panga sort of putting up that score and playing midfield, looking good, and I think surely the Giants coaching staff look at that and think she played her best game playing that role. Do we keep her F5 and upgrade her a Goldsworthy or I don't know. I'm just using Goldsworthy because I've got her at my F5. But if someone's got another player struggling, if you couldn't get rid of a Gardner and got locked out and you got a forced trade, obviously she's got to go first. But would you be trading an underperforming premium underline and keeping Panga at F5 with the fact that Toogood's got a tough matchup? Or do you think that still getting a premium in your forward line and keeping a Goldsworthy in your midfield is fine for one more week?
Yeah, personally, my priority, I think, lies with fixing my, or not necessarily fixing, but making sure the rest of my team is really good before I even worry about the forward line too much. And I've talked about it all year.
You've said that. You've said that all year.
Yeah, and hopefully it's working. But yeah, I still don't really feel comfortable having Panga at F5 though. But that's purely probably because the rest of my team is pretty settled. Like I have Hatchard at M5, which I'm perfectly okay with. So what I would probably do is weigh up how many points do you think you'll realistically gain from doing these types of things. If you've got, someone like a Goldsworthy, or maybe you've got another rookie lying around somewhere still, because not everyone has had the best of luck in these double game weeks, and you might need
some people still got like a D Donato example at F5. D5. Sorry.
So the F5 position is the least important of them, and I would probably hope that the rest of your team is in a good spot before you worry too much about it. Because if Panga comes out and scores 61 again, then that's amazing. And I don't think I would trade Panga anyway, and I'd probably have to trade Ella Smith or something like that, who is basement. So it makes it a bit tricky.
Yeah. Like when I'm looking at it, obviously, because that's sort of what I'm looking at with my trades. And I could get Panga to a Bonnie Toogood, for example, and yes, Toogood would be the pick. And I think if Toogood had a better matchup this week, I probably would do it. But the fact she's got North Melbourne at Windy Hill, that makes me a bit concerned with the tough matchup. But so whereas I could go Goldsworthy and I can get a midfield premium that I'm happy with. So, and I feel like if you're looking at it, let's say Panga goes 35-40. Let's say if she was doing similar to what she's doing at the start, because I think the 4 was an outlier. We obviously saw that she had that tackle on Montana Hammond, looked a bit distressed after and didn't really look the same. Looked good on the weekend. So let's say she scores a 40. Bonnie Toogood in a tough matchup, say 55-60. You're gaining 15-20 points, whereas a Goldsworthy who has been really up and down and win this role, she could score another 60-70 like she did against the Crows with 79. So that shows she scores 75, and you bring in a Conti, Riddell, Ash McCarthy, Shearer, like any one of these midfield premiums, you're sort of looking at bringing in Rowbottom. Even if they go, you're saying 100, 105, that you're gaining potentially 30 odd points on that. So I think when I'm looking at that, I'd be doing that. Maybe D5, depending on who that player is, it could be a discussion, but even the defenders are scoring a lot better this year as well than the forwards. And you spoke about all year as well. The forwards are that line that you're really not trying to spend too much money in. And as long as people are doing their job, you're probably just leaving them almost there pretty much. So, very interesting discussion. I think a lot of people be in that boat this week there as well. So I think we'll obviously the break evens there if you want to rewind and have a more of a look at them, but they've been up on the screen for a little bit. So we'll move over to the most traded in and out players of the week when we get it up. Is it up there, Joe?
Yeah, can you see that?
Cool. There it is. Beautiful. Cool.
It's early days. So there's not a lot going on here, but initially coaches are doing that move of getting in Toogood. Her break even's 43 at the moment. So pretty solid.
It's time to jump on. It's probably the time. Obviously, the matchup's not great, but 43 break even for a player that was priced at 1.3 million to start the year and clean number one forward. I think it's going to be someone that we're going to be looking at bringing in to our team. But one sort of little nugget that she did say post the game, she obviously was interviewed after the game, and she was saying that even herself was a bit shocked that she came back so quickly, and she's just taking it week by week. And I got the sense like she was saying a little bit that she doesn't think she won't be able to probably get back to her real best of like last year. So if you bring her in, I wouldn't be expecting the 100 average that we got from our last year. But at the end of the day, she's 600K. You're probably looking for Jade, what would you be looking from her? Probably 60, 65 you'd be pretty happy with? Is that probably where you'd be looking at if you're bringing her in?
Yeah, I think you'd want to be confident at that. She's still priced at 50. So you want to be pretty confident that she can beat that. Obviously, a nice score on the weekend. If she can do that again with say like a 65, she's probably going up 65,000. So then she'll be 700K-ish. That's probably, I think, the best case scenario. Yeah, like you said, I can't really see her going as big as what she did last year. And
would you be, if you could bring her in this week, would you be waiting? And I guess it's probably a discussion for people that have maybe got a Friswell or maybe got an underperforming forward that they want to, maybe not a rookie, but just someone that's over 600K that's maybe not performed as great. I'll use Friswell as the main example. Is that a trade that you'd be waiting a week and maybe just watching Too Good against North Melbourne to see? And if she looks good again, then you'd have a lot more confidence jumping on that next week?
I think the issue is that for Friswell, the matchup's worse and she's playing against Brisbane. So yeah, I would probably still do the Friswell to Too Good trade, and I still could do that. I'm looking at Friswell and what to kind of do there. I guess Too Good is a very much play on the name and just like, picking someone that and she's cheap, she's kind of bottomed out. But yeah, you just want to be pretty confident that she can do what she did on the weekend again. Because the price changes in this format are so quick. And like, I think it's okay to get her in this week because even if she scores a 35, she's only going down 23,000. But yeah, if she's got that 65 in her again, then that's 100,000 difference. So I do like it as a move, and I can see why it's pretty popular. Just the issue of that matchup.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if I didn't have Goldsworthy M5, I would be doing that move this week. But yeah, just with probably wanting to get Goldsworthy up to a midfielder, that's probably what I'm looking at doing there as well. But yeah, Jan, you want to talk us through the other most trading out players, just a couple players there?
Yeah, so if you're looking for a midfielder, Riddell and Garner are pretty popular. Riddell's bottomed out as well.
1.3 million. Crazy.
Her break even is 108. So yep. Yeah, she's like decently cheap for what she can do. But yeah, that midfield trio is just so powerful, and I do wonder where it kind of moves to going forward. King's been starting to take some more points now. So I've traded out Riddell 2 weeks ago, and it's worked out well. I don't know if I'm that keen on the fixture, but yeah, I can see why coaches are doing that. If you're looking to get, let's say, a Goldsworthy or whoever else you have at M5 or Goody, even plenty of coaches getting rid of her. This is a good way to make your midfield look really good on paper for a cheap price.
Yeah, like 1.286 million is ridiculously cheap, down 217K on the year. And obviously that it's not like she's dropped rapidly because of bad scores. Like she's got 3 90s in a row, 95, 94, 97. I'm looking at that though and going, well, she got 95 against Richmond, spent a lot of time on the bench in that. I think the first quarter she was stuck on the bench in that game, and that was the second game they're double. Then played the Bulldogs in round 6, and that was another quite a wet game. And then obviously this week she scored a 97 against Sydney there. I'm just thinking that it's going to turn back to 110 plus scores. I think that it was just the 3-game stretch coming out of the doubles, and then in the last 3 weeks of the season as well. Obviously, Crows next week, which will be a a fantastic game in round 9. And then she finishes off with, I don't know who she had in the final week, Gold Coast, which is a pretty good matchup. So I guess if you don't get her for one of the next 2 weeks, I think you probably want her around 10 in that last game. So don't mind her. Up some other players, Jade?
Yeah, Anderson, Garner, and people are looking at that kind of cheap price for the mids. Garner's quite a bit more expensive now, but yeah, we've still got coaches kind of with Gardner, with Goody trying to get rid of them. So yeah, these options look great because at this time of the year, you're wanting to kind of bring in players that you can trust for the rest of the year. You don't want to have to be trading them out. And I think all 3 of those premium mids fit that comfortably. And on the most traded outside, the interesting one is O'Dowd. Many coaches, now that she's had that double, straight to Mimstrom. Mimstrom's very lowly owned overall in the everywhere. Like only 2 in the top 10 have her, which is quite surprising because she's clearly R1. So you'd think if the coaches in the top 10 would need to have her. No, she's very unique. And it's purely for that doubles reason of O'Dowd. We were all waiting for it. If they were the other way around, then everyone would have been doing this move last week. But the fixture's pretty good. I'll give it maybe like an 8 out of 10. So I can really appreciate that move. And O'Dowd, scoring's been okay. Davis has been taking a bit of ruck, but not heaps.
Hasn't scored below 60 this year, O'Dowd, which is really impressive. Obviously, the last 2 games as well, she scored 62 in both games, but she got there late again in the last quarter. She's gone okay against the Crows, but the first game was obviously the hard one where she was not great for a lot of the game and then got busy in that last quarter with a 30-odd point last quarter and doubled her score. So this is one of those ones when probably if you're in luxury trade season, this is the first one you're probably doing, as you said, get that Mimstrom, who's a pod, who's the clean number 1 ruck. But again, do you agree if you've got a Goldsworthy and an O'Dowd, and even if you've got a Pangra, if you've got the trio, do you think O'Dowd's almost probably the last of them then? You'd probably be going one of the other players and upgrading them and upgrading like Goldsworthy first?
Yeah, I'm okay with O'Dowd for now. I think my expectations were quite low coming into the double. Like, you would never trade her out on the double, but she was playing against Jess Allen, who's the hardest ruck matchup this year, worst matchup in the competition.
Could be All-Australian ruck, actually. Like maybe on the bench, if they put her on the bench. I was going to say Mimstrom, I was forgetting. That was because Gus is getting excited, saying, Jess Allen, All-Australian. Maybe the bench, but she's been very good. If it wasn't for Mimstrom, there would be a conversation there, I reckon.
Yeah, and the way the Crows mids are dominating, she's a big reason for that. I didn't have the biggest expectations for O'Dowd against Allen, and she did save a score late, but I'm hoping that that's more representative of a lower end of her scoring, and hopefully she can kind of do that 70 from here on in. Because at this same point last year, I traded Schultz to Mimstrom, and it went okay, but Schultz ended up just going better for her price, I would say. I think she turned up in 1 week, so I'm kind of hoping O'Dowd can just stay there. Strom's really expensive, and I'm okay right now with O'Dowd staying there.
Yeah, she's got a solid run, O'Dowd. She's got Hawthorn, Fremantle, and Port Adelaide. And Hawthorn, we know the Wales sisters can give up points in the ruck. Mimstrom obviously is a bit of a trickier matchup in the ruck, but then again, maybe you're looking at that next week and going Mimstrom against Giants. That's a lot of hit-outs potentially there. So maybe that could be a really good trade to be doing next week. But yeah, I think with O'Dowd, it is a luxury one there. But that was the interesting one there. And I think a lot of the people there we've mentioned that trade out, like Goody, obviously trying to upgrade her, or even if she's on your bench, go her down. Friswell, obviously you've mentioned potentially she can go to a 2 good or even to someone else around there. And then obviously Hartill, DiDonato, Ramos, B and Fiddler are all got cash on their head and coaches are cashing them out. But obviously Goldsworthy, are you in agreement? She's probably got to go. Obviously the role's not great. She's playing way too much forward. Would she have to be almost one of the top priorities for you to trade out?
Yeah, that's kind of where I sit with the Goldsworthy versus O'Dowd. I just think the points gap is going to be bigger this week. If you can get that midfield upgrade, try and get 100 out of it. Goldsworthy in this just without forward status, not as valuable as what we would have liked.
Hawthorn's not great either. So, because Hawthorn could have been a bit trickier to score against. So, but yeah, they are the most trade in-out players. So, very, very nice there. We'll talk about, I guess, a couple of other options. Just we'll quickly go line by line. Won't go for too long just because we did touch on a fair few players, I guess, that are relevant there. But we'll touch on defenders. I think that you're probably your top sort of few. Obviously, Maddie Newman's still a good target. Isla Sheeran is probably one of the top ones. If you don't have her, she's been really consistent. I think she's gone over 70 in every game since the first 2 games she played. And again, this should have been 80 on the weekend, but -10 will do that, unfortunately. Daisy Darcy's a good option. Gabby Newton, as I mentioned, has been really consistent. Beck Webster's still up there as well. Charlie Thomas had a couple of good scores back-to-back. Maddie Gay, Sinead Goldrick, Serene Watson. And dare I say it, Ella Heads. Could you trust Ella Heads as an option to bring in? She's back to her. She had those 2 scores that were low with the 20 and the 33. And then she's gone 96, 66, 64, and 76. And that 76 in a tough match against North Melbourne. So could you bring her in, or do you think this wing role just scares you a little bit and you're probably not looking at it? She did move back as well after a couple of injuries.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to go there. I think like the value's kind of gone now that she did have. And there's like, I'd say there probably is others around that price. There's not really, but I'm kind of wanting a bit more security at this point of the year. And I'm a bit worried. She's got Brisbane in 2 weeks. And yeah, she's not really she's not getting any kick-ins. Just that wing role, it's really not for me, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be bringing her in, I don't think. 811K is expensive. It was obviously she was a target a couple of weeks ago when she was in 600s when people brought her in for a double and she went well and whatever. But I don't think I'd be looking at bringing her in. Someone that if you trade her out could be an option again. Ruby Slisher has been good. She's been playing this midfield role a lot more. She's had her 3 high scores of the season in the last 3 weeks, 69, 58, and 67. Played a lot of time on the bench. Was a lot of time on the bench last week, which is surprising. And had a lot of free kicks against. Got unlucky, could have been a lot higher there. So she could be potentially a target there. Obviously, I mentioned Georgia Stathis. She'd been bad the few weeks before that, but 94, she's 669. If you needed someone there, she could be an option. Even like a Chantel Emerson, who's been good, 16, 67 in the last 2. She had a bit of a quieter patch, but she was a premium for us last year. A couple of cheaper options there that you could consider there. Moving to the midfield, I guess we've all got Marinoff, and if you don't, you just can't get to her at this point unless you've got an insane bench. But then again, if you didn't have her last week, then you probably not take it quite too seriously, unfortunately. But obviously, we mentioned Garner, we mentioned Riddell. Obviously, Conti's got a good matchup. Ali Anderson has got a couple of good matchups, I think, as well. Obviously, Sophia Hurley's been good. Keely Shearer, Ash McCarthy's got a really good run to finish. Rowbottom's now got as that hard game's out the way. Who do you like from the midfield, Jaiden, that you'd be potentially targeting and bringing in this week?
Yeah, it's hard. I was just looking at the defenders. I suppose Shearer is one. In terms of the best fixtures from here, the Dogs have the best, and then Freo, and then Carlton. So they've got the 3rd best run home, and they've got the Dogs this week. So you could just have a crack and see how she goes. 400s in the last 4 games, 300s in the last 4 games, sorry. So I'm, looking at that. And, I don't really know. There's heaps from the other teams. Yeah, like Ash McCarthy, she didn't really go that well against the good matchup of Carlton last week. So
rested forward a bit, which is interesting.
Yeah, so,
I don't know if that's just because Hayley Miller was out. They needed another midfielder to rest forward more, but I expect if Miller's back that she probably won't be resting as much forward, but just something to note.
Yeah, so you could argue that Newton is a decent pick then if she's going to be playing midfield also as a defender, but in the midfield, I don't think you really need to overcomplicate it in the midfield. You can just kind of target look at your options and then see who has the best fixture of them. I probably wouldn't be picking your midfielders based on fixture and like looking at the fixture and then picking your mids. I think you're better off to look at the range of midfielders you could be getting, look at that price, see what you can find, who do you trust the most, and then if you can't decide, you can look at the fixture afterwards. But yeah, these midfielders in these kind of lower teams have such a big range of they could go 120 1 week, but I can't really see them going higher than that, like what some of these premium mids have done this year where they go 140. I'm really keen to try and get midfielders that can go 140 back into my team.
Yeah, so you'd be backing in the likes of your Garners, your Contis, Riddells, even Ali Anderson, those types of mids over, I guess, your Shearers and McCarthy's, just because they've got that massive ceiling that we've seen from all of those players this year.
Yeah, and of those, Ali Anderson's really the one with the positive fixture. The rest of them aren't, apart from Marinoff. But Ali Anderson, 2 positive games out of 3. North have dead even fixture, so not good, not bad. So you could just hope they continue what they've done for the whole year so far. Apart from that, it's really like the Collingwoods and the Bulldogs and Port Adelaide with the good fixtures, and I just don't really want to shop there, really.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because midfielders, as you and again, you've said all year as well, this is where you want to get your best scorers in, and putting in those big mids is probably where you're looking at going, unless you want a pod, and you can go for one of those, your Shearers or McCarthy's or one of those names around there. I think Rux is fairly straightforward. I think Strom, obviously, if you can get her, great. I guess if you got Lucy Wells, you almost keep her because she's been great and she's got the Giants this week. So if you can't get up to Strom, maybe Lucy Wells could be a bit of a pod that you go for this week. You mentioned Matilda Schultz as well. She would have been a pretty good pickup post her week 1 score. She went obviously really bad against the Crows, sharing ruck time with a few other rucks, and not going great against the hardest matchup. But since then, it's been really good, particularly her last month. She hasn't gone below 79. She's been good. Alice Edmonds, I still think, can go and finish the year well. Maybe not this week. You don't look at her. She's got Carlton, but with Borg out for the rest of the year, Edmonds is now the clear number 1 and taking all the ruck time. And it was a low-scoring game. She got a 70. She could be someone you maybe look at targeting. And Jess Allen's got some good matchups as well to finish the year as well. So could be someone that you look at. Moving to the forwards, I think we talked about obviously Too Good as well. Obviously, there's a lot of forwards here you could look at. Jaiden, obviously, they're a bit expensive. You got Randall, Maloney, Caitlin Gould. Hodder is obviously for us that we're owners from the start of the year. It's good that she's had some good scores of late. You've even got a Charlotte Mullins there as well, again, who's been decent. Hasn't gone below 50 since round 4. Alice O'Loughlin, Greta Bodie. Gabby Sutherland had a poor game, but you'd expect her to play a bit better. Jack DePie, which I'm so annoyed I was 4K short of her last week because I would have had her at F5. I'd have a completed team, which is annoying. Anya McDonough we mentioned as well. Gemma Houghton I still think is a good option with some good matchups. Katie Brenner potentially. Is there any of these forwards you like more than the other? Obviously, there's a lot of forwards up there at obviously the high prices.
I don't know how I feel about Randall. 2 games with very limited centre bounces after kind of increasing all year up until the double. Despite that massive score, I think that's more of a case of how good the fixture was for the forwards of Adelaide, and that's dried up now. They have the 4th worst for the rest of the year. So if she's going to keep playing forward against the likes of North, I can't really see her scoring that well. And she was on a very low score at like half-time or three-quarter time and saved it with a goal near the end. So I don't really want to be looking there at the moment until, you got a bit more clarity around what's going on with the midfield. Hatchard really stepped up in there over the double, and even Marinoff had been rotating in and out of starting in the centre, but obviously playing midfield. But she started in there as well. So they really pushed Randall up forward. Maybe it was a management thing. We don't really know.
Yeah, I could have almost said give -3 to Doc Clark for resting Hatchard for the last 10 minutes because she was on 97 and was going to probably easily go 110, 120, but rest of the final 10 minutes, which is not shocker, 2 games in a week, but would have been good to have got that extra, maybe a little bit of points. But some of these other forwards like Maloney, Gould, someone up there, O'Loughlin.
I think O'Loughlin is probably the safest. She's, kind of got that just knack for getting goals, even when you don't really expect it.
Her only two scores below 60. Sorry, Jaiden, was in wet weather as well. Every other score's been over 60.
There aren't a heap of great fixtures. I suppose McDonough's still got that with GWS and Melbourne the next 2 weeks. But there's not a heap. Like Friswell's run is terrible. Randall terrible.
Houghton's got a pretty good run, doesn't she, for the rest of the year?
Yeah, so that's 7th now. Obviously, GWS in the last round is boosting that up a lot. I'm not entirely sure where I'll be going in the forward line this week because, Too Good's the most traded in. North and Richmond the next 2 weeks of negative matchups. So she could just be a 1-week play against Carlton in the final round. I think O'Loughlin would be the premium that I'd be targeting, but she's quite expensive.
I probably agree.
Courtney Hodder's done really well the last 3 weeks as well, so you could have a look at her. But again, these are all clubs that are down the bottom in terms of fixture. So there's not really anyone that's really ticking all the boxes for me at the moment.
Yeah. Could you bring in Michaela Pounger after that 61 and the role? Would obviously be a punt. Obviously, you're punting on the Giants, keep her in that role, which we know with the Giants is never a given. If you're in a tough spot, you need cash. Maybe you need cash maybe if you've got 2 rookies on field, and could you trust Pounger F5 and bring her in as your F5?
I mean, it's probably more of a cash-related play.
Yeah,
she only had 28% of centre bounces on the weekend, so it wasn't anything extreme.
I think it's more because she was pushing. She was almost that extra midfielder. She was at the forward. She'd push right up and be in amongst the midfield, which was what we thought she would have done at the start of the year, but that was not the case.
So, for a price, perfectly fine. If you can't make things work, and the low break even helps a lot. That 4 will be out of a price cycle in the next game. So, completely fine to go there. You want to make sure that you're still getting a kind of completed team, I think. And in the forward line, it's probably a lot easier to get a completed line than the rest. So you probably don't really have to pay a heap more to get a little bit of consistency. That's why everyone's going for Too Good, I think. Yeah,
well, it costs you what? Panga's 430. It costs you less than 200k to go Panga to Too Good. So obviously, ideal world is you Too Good in a tough match. It goes about 50, and then people have got Panga. She goes to 60 again, and she's upwards of 500k, and it's only 100k difference between the two, and you can make that switch next week. So and that's for people obviously that have already got Panga, or if you're looking at maybe doing that 2-week move. But so they're probably the options there. We've talked through Raheem. We've obviously gone for a fair bit. So we will sort of wrap up with what our current trade plans are as of Monday night. So, Jaiden, mate, what are you looking at doing with your 3 trades now? Knowing, as you said, you got to look at the whole field now. It's not just the 4 or 6 teams on the double.
Yeah. I'm probably just going to downgrade Fiddler to Pierce for 250k. I'm not really sure how to use it yet. I'm thinking maybe Maddie Prasparkas needs to go. She's played those 2 good matchups and the double and did okay, but now bottom 4 matchup. So I'm probably going to be trading her, probably to a North midfielder. Not really sure about the other one. Obviously, Pounger is maybe an issue. I could probably get Friswell to Too Good, though, which probably looks pretty good on paper. I think that will work out.
Yeah, exactly. Don't mind those trades at all. At the moment, I'm looking at going 2 my rookies in Best Schilling and Carly Ramos down to basements. So I've got Borg from Port Adelaide and Jamie Harkin from West Coast currently sitting there. Butterfin, obviously, you mentioned, has got a really low break even. So does she become an option? The thing that scares me with her is she scored a 21 round 1, then she scored all in the teens, like 12s and 13s and points for until last week she scored a 44. So I'm sort of thinking that was out of the box. Or probably more likely is if a debutant comes this week, maybe jump on one of those, if not maybe 2. just to hope that they can put out a 40 or 50 and make some cash, and then you cash them in next week. But yeah, my bench is absolutely skin. There is nothing on there. There is only Giselle Davis. There is the only player over 300k, which is ridiculous. You got Borg, Harkin, Lily Pearson, Ella Smith, who we both have, all 300k. Then Davis is 429. And I'm really annoyed at that because Davis has scored over 40 points in every game, bar one, which is in round 6 in the second game. But that was the most important game because that's where she needed to go well to make some cash. So instead of, like, if you take that out, she scored 40s in every game, 48 on the weekend, her high score of the season. She would be probably closer to 600k because she was 491. Instead, she lost 70k and she only went up 1k last week. But now break even's probably a bit lower again, probably in the 20s. So I'm hoping that she goes a 50, makes some cash, and I can downgrade her next week, and then have no cash on the bench, which would be interesting. But I'll be in a tough spot where I won't have much to cash to get. So the other trades I'm doing is the only one is currently I've got Goldsworthy to Ash Riddell. Bring Ash Riddell in, then I've got Hatchard M5. But as I said, I've got no other money to upgrade Pounger. So Davis is the option. But if I'm short, I guess Caitlin Gould potentially would be the player then. She's 827. She's then got North after. Go her down to I mentioned a Friswell before, but a Katie Brennan or someone like that, make a bit of cash that way. That's probably where I've got to start looking, just because of the Bree Davian and 2 good injuries and a few other rookies that didn't make the cash. I probably need to be a little bit sort of a bit creative with how I get some money. But Marinoff will not be one of those ways. She's not going anywhere. She'll be staying. But yeah, so that's what I'm currently looking at doing. So that'll wrap us up there for the podcast, Jaiden. So Jaiden, once again, thank you very much for jumping on and having a chat, mate. Where can the people find you and the website with all the break evens and all the other stats they need at your website?
Yeah, all the tabs I have open right now, just all my own site, which is nice. I've finally got everything up there that I need. So statsbyjaiden.com.au/AFLW. You can find, break evens, fixture, centre bounces, kick-ins, everything over there. So, yeah, if you need any of that, it's going to be very valuable over the next few weeks. And, hopefully it helps out.
No, beautiful. Thanks, mate. We all, the whole community appreciates all the hard work you do, mate, each and every week. You can find me at Bails DT across the socials. You can find Mitch at Ball Boys Fantasy. And I'm sure if you're into your NBA and basketball and stuff, that's all heating up. And he's got plenty of content on the Ball Boys Basketball YouTube channel starting. So make sure you guys go and check all of that out as well. And you can follow us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter as well. If you are watching the video version of this, we very much appreciate it. And if you could smash a like on the video, they very much appreciate it. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Obviously, we've got the men's content after the women's season finishes. We'll have probably a little bit of a break, but we'll be back for the men's content and stuff like that. So make sure you subscribe so you're sort of all set, ready to go for the next season. And if you are listening to the podcast and you could leave us a 5-star rating and review, that'd be very much appreciated. It only takes a few seconds of your time and it helps us out a heap. So that'd be very much appreciated if you can do that as well. We'll be back on Friday afternoon. So we're back for our sort of what was our normal, but sort of our normal would have been Sunday and Tuesday. But our normal will be back on the Friday. We'll be live. I'm just having a look when the game starts. Game starts at 7:15. It's a bit later. So we'll probably be live from, I'm trying to figure out all sorts of times and stuff. So it'll probably be maybe 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, probably. So Eastern Daylight Time, I should say. But we'll let people know when we're live on the Friday anyway, and we'll see how we're all going. So thanks, everyone. Enjoy a few days off of not having to worry about trades and being relaxing. But we've obviously got footy Thursday night, so looking forward to that. So thanks, everyone, and we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.